Sandy Powell, and welcome to the Round Table. I have today, of course, my lovely, not lovely, but my handsome, I should say, my handsome husband with me today, and our topic is one that we wanted to bring to light because of the pandemic and because of this time that we're in, and that is marriage. Marriage is one of the things that have taken one of the biggest hits during the pandemic, 2020 year.
Yeah.
And as pastors, we have witnessed and recognized that marriages have taken a hit. So, honey, thank you. Welcome for being to the show. I appreciate you every time I call.
But thank you for allowing me. This is 2021. This is the first time this year we've come together on Roundtable show and platform. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, honey. You're so sweet to me. And back on our topic, because it's one that's near and dear to our heart, which is you and I both. This is our second marriage. You and I both were previously divorced, and so we know the good and the bad of it. We know both sides of the coin of marriage. We know the good side, and then we know the side where it wasn't good. It wasn't well. And we know that also it's important to have the right components to make marriage work. You gotta want it. That's my topic. Marriage is one of those things that just doesn't come second nature. It has to be intentional. You have to put work in.
Well, it's kind of like I think I shared earlier with the relationship on it is understanding what you. Let's say you're already there now. Somebody getting married.
That's right.
We're talking about the one that already married.
You're married now.
The one that are married are dealing with the union that has shown some type of aggression because of the outside influence of the world. I'm talking about church marriage, right. Relationship marriage, faith practice. Is that we sometimes find ourselves listening to what the world has to say about union that goes against what God says what it's supposed to be, such as same-sex relationship marriage. That's not acceptable. But a man and a woman, and then God also says, be not yoked with a non-believer. That goes back to the foundation of the creation of marriage between Adam and Eve. So God says clearly that we need to have a man on that foundation that the relationship of the marriage can be strengthened. It can only be strengthened with people be strong enough and willing enough to say, Lord, help us to understand the different personalities.
So again, this goes back to our thought in the sense of what's happening in our world, which is the outside influence of what's going on around us can affect marriages. And then what you were putting out is what people feel like is what they want in a marriage, considering same-sex marriages or either unequally yoked, which is believers with non-believers. And then with my thought of the pandemic, all of these are outside influences that affect a marriage. And so my thought to wanting us to come together was to talk about the stress and the strain that is put on marriages from outside events, things like the pandemic, things that marriages go through stress, financial issues, situations that arise that are unforeseen and sometimes foreseen, some things that we put ourselves in that can strain a marriage. And one of the things that I thought of that off the rip, without a doubt, is mindset.
Okay. Can I respond to that?
Yes.
The mindset is how one perceives what one wants.
Right.
That's your perception. I need to understand what is that perception. Because even in the 9-year, 10-year marriage already, it has been much challenges, many challenges, because we had to understand each other's background. I brought baggage of hurt and despair. You brought baggage of hurt and despair. Though we had a relationship as friends, but when we got into the reunion of marriage, now we had to deal with
different things.
Yeah. So when the pandemic actually hit, it really kind of helped define what marriage really was. Because we've been so busy going in and out on our own. Now we're in the home. We're forced to be at the table. We're forced to communicate. And sometimes most marriages didn't know during this pandemic how to.
And when you said forced, it's true. At one point, we chose before the pandemic to be in the same space for any period of time. But the pandemic forced us. You didn't have a choice. And so that's where the pressure was. Because before the pandemic, if there was a little bit of pressure about something, you can just get up and do something different. Get up and go, let's get up and, we can change our atmosphere, we can change our scenery, we can change our, the four walls in which we were looking at, and maybe try to create another atmosphere. But when we were forced to not only in place, but have to look at each other all the time, every day, all day, and deal with things without having a place of what we call retreat.
Yeah. And a lot of marriages, according to studies, has shown that many of the marriages were already on the breaking point. The pandemic only infused that, because without the foundation of Christ,
right,
in the marriage of a family, of the church, I always relate to the body of Christ. I can't relate to
right,
the world marriage.
Right.
I didn't have the type of marriage.
Right.
But as a pastor, as one that encourages believers to keep the union.
Right.
Well, when you had the pandemic, many of them began to really see another side of that person that they have not seen.
Right. We were tested.
Yes.
The marriages were put to the test. Basically, where we, like I said before, where we didn't have to, we were intentional on what we wanted to do pertaining to each other. The pandemic forced us, and in the pressure of it, we were put to the test of our marriage. And like my topic is saying today, it's all about wanting. I think sometimes the fantasy about marriage is that we will get married and everything will work itself out. And you and I know that that is just a flat out lie, that you have to want to be married. Because there's some days that people don't want to be married.
Well, would you not say every marriage is conditioned with pressure point?
Yes.
They come with pressure point. There are certain things that pressures marriage that defines it. And some of the pressure point in the marriage helps that marriage to be a better marriage.
Right.
It's never going to be skip to the two all the time.
Right.
There are going to be moments where you just can become frustrated with with your spouse. Nothing related to sin. It's just evolving.
Right.
And sometimes our relationship are so far from the truth, meaning that we don't always be truthful with each other.
Right.
That the pandemic made.
Exactly. That's an absolute truth. Because you and I were not exempt from testing the pressures of the marriage. By far. I think what you and I have learned to do is we have learned it's like you said, mindset. We have learned that first, we only have one enemy in our relationship. That is the enemy. That's Satan. So we exclude each other from being enemies. Like you're not working against me and I'm not working against you. And we remind each other that we are one. And I think in marriages, sometimes we can get in a corner and we can be one against the other in actuality, which goes against the word of God, because in marriage, we become one.
Partnership.
Right. I mean, we become one flesh.
One flesh.
And we become one in ourselves as a couple. It's no longer you and me, it's us. And I think in marriages, sometimes we get in those separate corners. And when we have a disagreement, instead of being one, we become two. And we throw rocks, or we have our opinions, and we don't know how to come together and be that one still. Like one body doesn't fight against itself, doesn't harm itself. And so with oneness, we have to remember, like, I can't hurt you because I feel like you're not in agreement.
But I would also, marriage has to remind it it's a partnership.
Right.
Partners supposed to support each other. Partners stand with each other.
Right.
And when you allow someone else to come in between the partnership, because you're not talking to your partner, now other issues arise in the situation.
Exactly.
Because now, what's the foundation of the relationship? No one's God. Second, you all ability to remain partners.
Exactly.
You're my partner in faith. You're my partner in relationship. So before I talk to some other person, male or female, I need to be talking to you.
Exactly.
And my issues with you, I don't need to talk to this person. I need to talk to the person I got the situation with. And the offense don't mean to the point where I don't like you.
Right.
It just may be something I don't understand. But before I can try to understand someone else, I need to give you the first opportunity
That's
to
good,
help
honey.
define the situation.
That's good, because a lot of times that's that separation there. We go, and instead of dealing with our partner about issues and things that we don't understand that our partner may be doing or our husband or wife may be doing, we go get allies. We go get someone to be in agreement with us against our partner, against our husband or our wife. And that's the separation that's happening. That's that standing in separate corners and instead of being one, because there's no one out there who can explain me better than me.
And that again goes back to what I stated earlier. It's a concern, a matter of the who's allowed, who's permitted to speak into your relationship.
Right.
If it's not a person that is going to take you to another place in righteousness,
right,
that's not the person you need to talk to. Whether it be mama, father, brother, sister, cousin, Quita, whoever they may be.
Yeah, Quita.
Leroy or Johnny,
leave Leroy alone.
They're not part of that union.
Right.
See, and that's the most difficult thing that a lot of relationships face in the marriage is you try to bring other people part of the union.
Right.
There's no other person part of you. That's why the Bible says a husband leave his mother and father and cleave to his wife and vice versa. Right. But when you bring others outside influence, opinion, remember opinion is what everybody got. In
Everybody
reality,
got one.
however you use it is on you. But the reality is that you need to be mindful. Their opinion is not facts.
Right.
It's just their perception. And perception, a lot of time, most of the time, will destroy a relationship between you and I if we let it be spoken to our life.
Exactly.
Cast down the imagination.
Exactly. And then on that thought about who's speaking into your life or speaking into your marriage, there's definitely two that stand out in my mind. I'm sure it's more, and our listeners probably can think of others, but these two stand out in my mind. One is getting counsel or getting advice from ungodly people, from people who are not governed by the Holy Spirit. And to have someone to come and have an opinion or have to speak into your life pertaining to your marriage, and they don't know God. And when I say know God, I don't mean you heard about him. Yeah. I mean, he is the Lord of your life. To me, you're looking for your marriage to be destroyed.
And also keep in mind, not just the people who are not of the faith,
right,
but people that are in the faith.
That was my second one. I didn't get to it. Go ahead.
Who are in the faith, who doesn't have a good foundation. Right. They're not standing on a good foundation. They may be in a dark place themselves. They may be wounded and bruised themselves. So wounded people hurt wounded people.
Right.
So you have to be very careful who speaks into your ear.
Right.
If your pastor is in a bad place, he's not the one that's speaking to your ear about relationship.
Right.
And many times I found myself when I was going through my turbulence in my first marriage, is that I allowed too many of the wrong people of the church speak in my ear. Even though they may be I classify as a friend or associate or someone that I felt like they had my best interest at heart. But when it comes down to your marriage, that's between you and your spouse and God.
Right.
If those three components don't work, outside ain't gonna help.
Exactly.
Especially when they're not in a good place, and especially if they got their own agendas. So when you go into a marriage situation, and the last person you need to talk to is the person that got an interest in you.
Right. And piggybacking on what you said about having the wrong persons. The wrong foundation.
Yes. People
sometimes have motives.
Yes.
And hidden agendas as to why they're speaking into your life. And I'll say this without a shadow of a doubt. Any person who doesn't care for your spouse or speaks against your spouse is not a person that you need to get counsel from about your spouse, or if that's what you're seeking. Whenever there's, because to me, when you have a person who is genuine about making sure marriages are solid, they are about salvaging and holding that marriage, solutions, holding that marriage together. And they're not about picking sides. They want to see the resolution to the issue that's causing the marriage to be strained and stressed. And now sometimes, and we've learned this in our older age, you and I, we've learned this since we've been down the road a little bit. We've learned that in our youth that we didn't always make right. We didn't do the right. We didn't do the right thing, and we didn't receive the right counsel. Now this is exclusion. Make this point here. This is exclusion from relationships or marriages that there is abuse going
that's
on.
Totally
this is just strictly
marriages really trying
marital,
to develop
normal,
normal
issues
matters
that come up in marriages that cause strain and stress. I'm talking in that sense about this topic today. But in that pressure points that happen on a natural of two different people coming together with two different. You and I could not be any more opposite than a couple could be. You and I are night and day. And but it has no bearing on the fact that we are together.
Well, it's kind of like a car battery. It's one battery, but it has two components, a negative and a positive. Without the both, they're not going to work.
Right.
So we have that don't mean negativity of the relationship. Right. Meaning you see things different observation, but yet when it comes to the things of God, we're one.
We're one.
We come down to how I feel about a certain situation. We're on total different fields. Right. But at the end of the day, our foundation is Christ.
Right.
We have made a deliberate confession or a decree. Hell or high water, creep across, sink or swim.
Right.
We're not going to.
Right. Exactly. We're not, and that's the topic of today. Is we want our marriage.
Yes.
You know,
I love my marriage.
Yeah, we love our marriage. We love each other. But I'm not going to fantasize and say I don't get on your nerves. Amen. I know I get on your nerves. I wait for this.
Glory to God. Hallelujah.
But your intention to be married to me is what makes you stay in place. Just the same way with me. I mean, as handsome as you are, and you're an awesome father, grandfather, an awesome husband, a great provider. You're all of these things. But for me to pretend that sometimes, you don't take me to the top of the mountain and I feel like I'm going to jump off. Because he's got this, he got away. But it's intentional for me.
There you go.
Even my love towards you is not based upon
what I do for you.
What you do. Yeah. It's not conditional. It's not based on what you do or what I get that I choose to love you. I choose to love you when you aren't acting lovable. That's intentional. And the same thing with me. We make a conscious decision that it has nothing to do with what is before us. It's everything about our confession. It's our mindset. And marital success is based on mindset and not on what we necessarily always do.
And I agree with the most important part is intentionally. I intentionally make every decision in regards to you betterment.
Right.
That's my intention. I intentionally does this. I intentionally wake up in the morning, look at you and say, God, I love this woman. Now, do you get on my nerve? I'm quite sure. Yes.
Multiple times in a day.
But it's not a nerve that type of pressure point where I'm so frustrated I want to walk away.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes you just got your way of doing things. And for instance, say something needs to be repaired around the house.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to repair it, but you already got the way it's supposed to be repaired. So you interrupt and do it the way it's supposed to be repaired, and I get mad and frustrated. But the truth of the matter is, I look back at me, she was right. I just didn't tell her. So help me, Jesus. Make me more mechanical, but I can cook good though.
You can cook, man. You can cook. So that tops everything. If you can't fix nothing, don't worry about it.
But even in that, in my cooking thing, you taught me the most important part about preparation and health purpose, how we handle the food, how we make sure we don't cross contamination.
Right.
Even before I took the course, you was giving me that class. Well, the reality is, it took sometimes that pressure point of you saying something for my betterment, but that down the road I can appreciate now. Right. A lot of times, nobody appreciate correction at the moment.
Right.
Okay, the most top pitmaster or chef.
Right.
If you correct him, he's not gonna like it.
Right.
But then he'll get his moment of time of quietness. He's thinking about. So in the marriage, there will be times, and there should be times that their pressure points are being pressured for the betterment of the relationship.
And then on top of that, as a wife, I do understand this role, and I know all the feminists are disagreeing with me at this point, but it doesn't matter. It's Bible that you are my head, and you are the head of our home. And so even in the times where I may not be in agreement necessarily with your decision, I have to submit myself, and that's intentional.
Yes. Because
I am 58 years old. I'm a grandmother of multiple.
Yes.
And I have my own accounts. I have my own money. I have my own. And so,
show,
yeah,
your own ministry within the ministry.
I could just say, well, I'm just going to do it my way. I'm my own person and do that. But I intentionally submit myself to your decisions. And then I think with marriage, we don't understand the power as women that we have with our husbands. We don't have to be rah-rah with y'all, because anytime that I feel as though, well, Lord, I don't know if this is necessarily the direction or the thing that we should do. See, my Father, which is the head of your life, hears my prayers.
Can I give an example?
Yeah.
In the ministry, you had this desire to operate in a certain area of our ministry during the pandemic, that I said, no, this is not the time right now. Meaning, I wanted to actually move forward and lay hands on the believers. And I said, no, this is not the time. It wasn't that I was telling you couldn't do it. I was saying you better not do it. I was saying, well, this is not the time. Now the time has come, because there has become opportunity to do this again. Getting back to some of the norms, well, that may not be, some norms won't come back, but in a relationship, you are able to take a decline of a desire for the betterment of what we need to do.
Right, and that's the thing.
If that makes sense.
Even in ministry, like you said,
yes.
And this is to of course, believers. Women, we have to understand, wives, I should say, wives. Yeah. We have to understand that even in ministry, we're subject to our husbands. Yeah. And we don't get to be, we don't get to buck against him because this, God called me because, I got a call on my life and I got to do what God said. You married that man.
Yeah. First.
See, that's why we can't be unequally yoked with non-believers. You got a non-believer in your life, and now you want to, answer your call. That's going to be a difficult moment in your life, in a difficult moment in your marriage, because if he's not in agreement, that's going to be major problems.
And I'm glad you said it, because when you talk about faith practice is what one serves.
Right.
If I marry someone outside of my faith practice, it's going to be a problem.
Right.
Because it's not going to be able to come together in the union. Because her foundation is different than mine. That's why we're not equal with non-believers. If you are of the Christian faith, to marry someone outside the Christian faith is not going to work.
Right.
Okay, how you try to say you're going to pull them over, you're going to win them over, you're going to love them over. It doesn't work, because you're going against what the word says.
Right.
See, this is where I tell people all the time. In the marriage, the holy union of the marriage is sacred. It is rightfully divined by God and defined by God.
Right.
And so let anyone bring something different, like Solomon did. God told Solomon, the day you marry these women, these strange women, that was a union, they're going to turn your heart from me.
And that was God's only issue with Solomon's marriages.
Yes.
It wasn't that he was marrying foreigners, or that he was marrying outside of the Israel. He just said, because their heart is toward another God.
That is this. Yes.
Yeah, they worship other gods.
Yes.
He says, that's my issue with you marrying them, is because they're going to turn your heart from me. Yeah. So anything that pulls us from loving God and worshiping God, that's the thing that God doesn't want us to have. And that's a little bit off topic, but that's in everything. Money, wealth, careers, anything that pulls you from God, loving God, worshiping God.
Yes. And
now you go to worship that. That's the thing that God doesn't want you to have. So that was the only fight God had with Solomon and his wives. But at the end of the day, the unequally yoked showed up. That's what it was. That's what it does. It's that what it says, 3-strand cord is not easily broken.
Yes.
And so my son JR, he uses that with me and his sister and himself. He always talks about that because in the beginning that was our bond. We only had each other, and he always reminds people, that 3-strand cord. He reminds us it's not easily broken, and it's important to know that you are connected with someone. Like I'm holding on to you,
yes,
and we intentionally hold on.
Yes, yes.
So something can come against this, but we're still going to fight to hold on to each other. Yes. We're still going to fight to maintain this connection, and that in marriage is a necessity, because the enemy is always lurking to try and break the union. But you and I have to be intentional about wanting to hold on to each other, because if we're looking to stay together because something doesn't come against us, we're not going to make it.
Yeah, communication is the key. Communicating. I love to say partnership. I love to say the word partner.
Right.
Because partner to me is investment.
Right.
We both got a lot to gain here.
Right.
And we got a whole lot to lose.
Right.
I like the gain. I like the profit margin, meaning I like to see the increase.
Right.
So I can be what God says a light to the world. So in our marriage, we get a lot of compliments on Facebook. We're not on Facebook trying to be the ideal couple. No, we just enjoy. No. We mostly enjoy being old and with our grands.
Yeah.
So right now, I'm in the best of my life in my marriage. I love you. I adore you. I appreciate you. I value you. So now, did I do that in the beginning? Somewhat and some not, because it's a level of maturity. You evolve to that. Yeah. So I shared with a brother one time. I said, in life, you as men, and it goes for women as well, once you make that turn, you turn for the better. Until then, you're going to keep doing the same crazy stuff until you make the turn.
Exactly. And I like that word you said, value.
Yeah.
Anything we value, we take care of. Because I have some jewelry that it's not that big of a deal. It's kind of cheap. I'll loan it out. I'll let you like it well enough. I'll let you have it.
Paparazzi. Okay, go ahead.
Don't do people.
All right.
Anyway,
it's good. Hey, what you like, you like.
But okay, let's just take it there, because you already said it's $5.
Yes.
$5. You can share $5. You can say, hey, you like this? Okay, you like that? Okay, you can have it. That's $5.
But Vera Wang, Vera Wang is different.
Vera Wang,
it's a whole different level.
You get $5,000 piece of jewelry.
Yeah.
You gotta pray.
That's inheritance.
You gotta pray when somebody say like, "Oh, you do? Thank you." You move on.
Yes.
But the value of something sometimes determines the effort that we put into maintaining it. Like jewelry.
You said a key word. Maintaining, which is maintenance.
Right.
That's maintenance in our relationship. That's fine tuning. That's changing the oil. That's making sure we got the right fuel. What is the fuel? Our connection. See, everything has its own dynamic.